Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is me, Rumesa Qureshi, and you are watching Desi TV USA. Viewers, let me take you to the special report. The Internal Revenue Service and the Ethnic Media Services organized a briefing on Friday, March 22nd, along with the IRS titled What's New in the Tax Filing Season, provided that all persons living in the United States, especially the people of the 12 states who may benefit from this briefing, see the full briefing. Viewers, as you have observed in the briefing, all the information was provided by the experts regarding the subject, which all the people living in the United States, especially the people of the 12 states who can benefit from this briefing. So please share with others because it's very informative.
Oh, I don't know if he's made it. Oh, there he is, Kevin Morehead. Oh, there he is. Okay, I can see him. Okay, cool. Let's go for it, guys. All right.
Great.
Okay. See you later. Welcome to today's annual briefing with the IRS as the tax filing season swings into full gear. I am Pilar Barrero, Associate Editor at Ethnic Media Services. Today's briefing will focus on Direct File, a new tax filing service available in 12 states that is helping people save time and money by filing their taxes online for free directly with the IRS. And it will describe the new extended hours to access Taxpayer Assistance Center, how to apply for unclaimed refunds, what the filing deadline is, and other options to file like free file and where's my refund. This is our opportunity to ask all the questions we think our audiences want to know, but don't know how to ask. So guys, get ready with your questions. I have a couple. Okay, the speaker for today's briefing is Kevin Morehead, Deputy Commissioner in Investment Division at the IRS. I'm having a little bit of echo, not sure why. All right, I hope you can hear me okay. The briefing will be interpreted in Spanish, Mandarin, and Korean as usual. So to our speaker, please remember to speak slowly so our fabulous interpreters can do their job. We will send a recorder of the session to all participants this afternoon. If you have questions for Kevin Morehead, please enter them in the chat and we will take as many as time allows, and they don't have to be on the same topic of the briefing. They can be on any tax issue, okay? So take this opportunity to ask questions from the IRS. You don't have that every day. So now let's begin. Mr. Morehead, welcome. You can go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me first by apologizing to everyone on for my technical difficulties. I just arrived back into the city of Atlanta from being in Washington and had to get computers hooked up, and my computer wanted to do a download. So
No.
it was just the timing is such wonderful time to do a download and forcing me then to try to go to alternative devices. So if you were in my home office here, you would see like 6 different devices that have all been trying to connect for the last 15 minutes. So I really apologize for being late, but I'm very happy to be here and hope the information I provide helps taxpayers across the nation. I'll be referencing several resources today that I believe will be shared with you by the Ethnic Media Service if they haven't been already. With the IRS expecting to receive 146 million returns by the close of filing season on April 15th, planning for the nation's filing season is a monumental task. The IRS started accepting 2023 tax returns on January 29. Preparation for the current filing season began early last year and focused on the IRS team working diligently to implement investments from the Inflation Reduction Act, allowing added improvements that taxpayers are experiencing this year. The efforts of our workforce, along with the important work done by our partners, in the tax community and the software and financial industry all contribute to the successful filing season currently underway. We at the IRS are committed to improving the customer experience. This includes increasing help available on the toll-free line, specifically our main taxpayer helpline, and expanding the customer callback feature designed to significantly reduce wait times. We are meeting these commitments and expect that to continue for the rest of this filing season. The filing season is also on track when we look at the tax return and refund data. As of March 8th, the IRS had received 62.8 million returns and processed 61.9. We've issued nearly 43 million refunds for a total of more than $135 billion. The filing deadline to submit 2023 tax returns or an extension to file and pay tax owed this year is Monday, April 15th for most taxpayers, except for taxpayers who live in Maine or Massachusetts, who have until April 17th, 2024 to file. Taxpayers who request an extension to file have until October 15th this year to file their tax return. People should remember that an extension to file is not an extension to pay. So let me tell you about the tax return filing options. I want to cover some basics for those taxpayers who have not filed yet. We encourage everyone to have all the information they need in hand to make sure they file a complete and accurate return. Filing an accurate tax return can avoid processing or refund delays and IRS notices. My best tip is to file electronically. We call it e-filing, and choose direct deposit if you are getting a refund. You may ask why? Because most taxpayers who file electronically and choose direct deposit typically have no need to contact the IRS. That is because electronic filing reduces errors, and returns with errors may require further review and possibly correction, which can delay a refund. Making these two choices alone avoids most of the challenges people face when filing or getting their refund. And I have good news. Most people have several free ways to file electronically. So let me tell you about our free file options. First, there is Direct File. On March 12th, the IRS announced the full-scale launch of the Direct File pilot and encouraged eligible taxpayers in 12 states to try the new service to file their 2023 federal tax returns online for free directly with the IRS. IRS Direct File is available in English and in Spanish. Following Direct File's success during initial testing, the IRS opened the pilot to all eligible taxpayers in the 12 pilot states. Taxpayers can log on to Direct File to start the return and complete it anytime before the April filing deadline. The Direct File pilot is an option for taxpayers who fall into these categories. They report income earned from jobs that generate a W-2. They claimed the Earned Income Tax Credit or Child Tax Credit and the credit for the other dependents. And they claim the standard deduction and deductions for educator expenses and student loan interest.
Mr. Morehead.
Direct file is
Mr.
designed.
Morehead, Mr.
Yes.
Morehead, could you repeat the last sentence where you spoke about the tax credit, the earned income tax credit, because you dropped at that point? I just want to make sure we captured your full sentence.
Okay, I apologize for that. Yes, I'd be glad to. So let me repeat again that direct file pilot is an option for taxpayers who fall into the categories that they report income from jobs that generate from a W-2. They also may be claiming the earned income tax credit or the child tax credit or the credit for other dependents. And the final piece is they claim the standard deduction and deductions for educator expenses and student loan interest. Direct file is designed to be easy for taxpayers to use. At every step, it shows the work behind the calculations, so taxpayers can be confident that the tax return is complete and accurate. Taxpayers can also get support from special IRS customer service representatives in English and in Spanish through Direct File's live chat feature. Direct File, like other electronic filing options, allows taxpayers to typically get their refund in less than 21 days when direct deposit is chosen. Taxpayers in 12 pilot states who file simple returns can choose Direct File through the April tax deadline. Let me tell you which states those are: Arizona, California, Florida, Massachusetts, Nevada, New Hampshire, New York, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming. After completing their federal returns, taxpayers in the states with a state income tax, which are Arizona, California, Massachusetts, and New York, will be guided to a state-sponsored tool to complete their state return. Interested taxpayers can go to the directfile.irs.gov website where they can see if Direct File is the right option for them. In addition to Direct File, the other IRS offers for Free File are the Free File Alliance, which allows taxpayers who make $79,000 or less in 2023 to file their taxes electronically for free using software provided by commercial tax filing companies. This year, EasyTaxReturn.com is providing an IRS Free File product in Spanish. IRS Free File fillable forms, a part of this effort, is available at no cost to any income level and provides electronic forms that people can fill out and e-file themselves, also at no cost. We also have free tax help by IRS certified volunteers through the Volunteer Income Tax Assistant and the Taxpayer Counseling for the Elderly programs. We often refer to these as VITA and TCE. These volunteers are available in communities nationwide to provide free tax assistance to low to moderate income. Generally, this means those who have an income under $64,000 in adjusted gross income. And elderly taxpayers have an age of 60 or older. At select sites, taxpayers also have the option to input and electronically file their own tax return with the assistance of an IRS certified volunteer. So again, see the irs.gov website for more information. I also want to point out that there's help for the military A Department of Defense program, which is called the MIL Tax, generally offers free return preparation and electronic filing software for federal income tax returns and up to 3 state income tax returns for military members and some veterans with no income limit. So those looking for a paid preparer, they can visit the irs.gov to access our directory of federal tax return preparers to find a preparer with credentials and select qualifications near them. Remember, carefully choosing a tax professional is vital to ensuring the taxpayer's personal and financial information is safe and secure. While most tax pros provide honest, high-quality service, some may cause harm through fraud, identity theft, and other scams. I'll say more about general scams in a minute. Once a taxpayer files their return, they may want to know when they'll get their refund. With millions of tax returns going out each week, the Where's My Refund application on irs.gov remains the best way to check the status of a refund. The Where's My Refund tool is available in English and in Spanish and provides taxpayers with 3 key pieces of information: the IRS confirmation of receiving a federal tax return, approval of the tax return and refund, and issuing date of the approved tax refund. Information for returns from tax years 2023, 2022, and 2021 are available. Thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act funding, we were able to make improvements to the heavily used tool of Where's My Refund. And the changes this year include messages with detailed refund status in plain language, seamless access on mobile devices and with the irs.gov app, and notifications indicating whether the IRS needs additional information. So discussing refunds, we must also address scams that sometimes surround those refunds. I'd like to take a moment and talk about a few of the scams the IRS currently is monitoring. We want taxpayers to be on the lookout for a scam that tries to mislead people into believing they are owed a refund. The new scheme involves a mailing coming in a cardboard envelope from a delivery service. The enclosed letter includes the IRS masthead with contact information and a phone number that do not belong to the IRS, and wording: the notice is in relation to your unclaimed refund. Also, the IRS warns taxpayers to avoid unethical tax return preparers known as ghost preparers. A ghost preparer is someone who doesn't sign tax returns they prepare. Not signing a return is a red flag that the paid preparer may be looking to make a quick profit by promising a big refund or charging fees based on the size of the refund. Taxpayers are often baited by these preparers with promises of larger refunds. So remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. The Choosing a Tax Professional page on irs.gov can help guide taxpayers in making a good choice. We also want to remind people to be wary of individuals calling and impersonating IRS agents. The phone scam targeting taxpayers include recent immigrants continues to make the rounds. Callers are aggressive and pose as IRS agents using fake names and bogus IRS identification badge numbers in hope of stealing taxpayer money or personal information. They may know a lot about their targets, and they usually alter the caller ID to make it look like the IRS is calling. Victims are told they owe money to the IRS, and it must be paid promptly through a gift card or wire transfer. Victims may be threatened with arrest, deportation, or suspension of a business or driver's license. Victims may be told they have refund due to trick them to sharing private information. If the phone isn't answered, the scammers often leave an urgent callback request. Unfortunately, criminals are always inventing new ways to trick people. An important rule to remember is the IRS does not initiate contact with taxpayers by email, text message, or social media channels to request personal or financial information. People can find more information about tax scams and consumer alerts and how to report them by visiting irs.gov. One more related refund topic. The IRS wants to remind people who haven't filed a tax return for 2020 to check their records. It's possible they may be overlooking a potential tax refund. The IRS plans to provide more detailed state-by-state information later this month for taxpayers who may have overlooked filing and getting a refund for 2020. Taxpayers owed a refund have 3 years after the filing due date to file and claim any money entitled to them. For 2020 tax returns, the due date is May 17th, which is 3 years after the original May 17th, 2021 tax deadline. While most taxpayers can file their tax returns without ever talking to the IRS, we know that sometimes people need help. So our tax locations, our taxpayer assistance centers, have extended hours and Saturday events to help more people in person. The IRS continues these Saturday events and extended hours at many of the locations across the country. Designated tax will be opened on Saturday, April 13th and Saturday, May 18th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. to provide in-person help across the nation. At our taxpayer assistance centers, people meet with IRS employees to get help with tax account issues. During these events, people can visit offices in many cities, including the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. Professional foreign language interpretation will be available in many languages through over-the-phone translation services. During these events, people can make payments by check or money order, get help with identity theft, identity authentication, including individual taxpayer identification number or ITINs, renewals, and ask about account adjustments, to name a few of the services we have provided. The IRS can't accept cash payments during these special Saturday events, and a tax return preparation service are also not available. Again, tax return preparation is not available at our tax. So before traveling to an office, we encourage everyone to visit the event page on irs.gov called Saturday Hours to get current information. People can also get face-to-face help at a TAC before or after regular operating hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Many of our taxpayer assistance centers or TACs around the country have extended their office hours on these dates until April 16th. To see if a nearby TAC is offering the added hours, people should use the locator tool on irs.gov. As the tax filing deadline approaches, the IRS reminds taxpayers that there are a variety of ways that people can get help in multiple languages. On the IRS website, much of the information has now been translated into 7 languages other than English. Taxpayers can simply select their preferred language from the drop-down menu at the top of the page, including Spanish, Vietnamese, Russian, Korean, Haitian Creole, Traditional Chinese, and Simplified Chinese. In addition, a special resource page on irs.gov is offered even more languages. The language page gives taxpayers an overview of key topics related to information about federal taxes in 21 languages, and IRS work in the multilingual area continues to be expanded. So in closing, I want to highlight 2 resources that help minimize unnecessary calls and in-person visits to the IRS. Number 1 is our irs.gov help page. And number 2 is the IRS Service Guide, which includes information and links to most of the resources I shared today. It is available in English and in Spanish and also includes resources for tax professionals. So thank you for having me today. Again, I apologize for my lateness. Appreciate the work you all do. We could not deliver a successful filing season without your help in getting us useful information out to our nation taxpayers. As always, I want to remind everyone the best place to start is with irs.gov and the many resources available there to help taxpayers file a complete and accurate tax return. Thank you, and hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Mr. Morehead, and no worries about having this. I've had that happen to me, going with the downloads of the computer. But your presentation was so clear and spoken with in such a way that the interpreters probably loved you. So there are questions in the chat. We also have questions. I have questions. Some of the questions are being answered. Some of the simpler questions are being answered in the chat by the IRS friends. But there's a question here from Henrietta. I'm gonna give you the space to ask your question now, Henrietta.
Thanks so much. I'm wondering, Mr. Morehead, are those who are self-employed required to pay their taxes in pre-tax installments? And are they penalized if they don't, even if they pay all of their taxes required for the year?
So all taxpayers are required to pay by the due date of the return that they're filing. I'm not sure if the individual would be filing a 1040 as a Schedule C filer or some of one of our business returns, but the taxes are due by the due date of that return. So, I would again remind taxpayers to check irs.gov. There's a section out there, the resource. The search tools are great to help with any questions as far as specifics, and we'll provide the link to one of our many publications that will provide the specific answer to any question that might be out there.
Thank you so much. Sunita, you have a question too. Sunita? Okay, she's doing recording right now. I don't know if she can she could come to the video, but so Sunita is asking.
There we go. Yes, I was asking, what is the most common scam that you see out there, and how do scammers get information about their prospective targets, particularly immigrants?
So there are so many different scams out there. I think sometimes we don't even realize that when we give out our personal information to anyone, that it may be shared or it could be confiscated in an inappropriate way. So I always caution any individual as far as someone stealing your identity, and especially your identity number that you may be using to file your tax return. Be confident in giving that number to someone assisting you, that they will use it to file a legitimate return. Because once they have access to it, then what happens is they potentially could share it. It could be used to file a fake return. Then you're struggling to get your own refund. They may have information as far as trying to make up false data. So it's really not so much that they're trying to take from the individual, but they're trying to do things to get what the individual would be blocked from getting. Because we can't file 2 tax returns on the same person. So then it takes a while to untangle that confusion. So I often tell people, please go get an identity protection pin to help with that process, to make sure that you are secured in that filing.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see. Sunita, you have a couple of questions here. Okay, let's move on. Orhan has an interesting question here. Do you want to ask your question about the corporations, Orhan?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you for presentation. It was really helpful. So we are reading so many articles, which is indicating that the corporations, so they're making billions dollars revenue, but not paying the tax, federal tax, even $100 tax. So since it's confidential, we are not able to see everyone's, tax filing. So we are reading that kind of things a lot. So is that possible to make that revenue not paying any federal tax?
So everyone is required to pay their just tax requirement. So if you're not paying, then the IRS, will be wanting to follow up with you as far as researching why you're not paying. I think the commissioner has said it really well as far as the resources necessary for us to run a strong compliance campaign to make sure that we are following through in our process. So I won't say that it's possible that someone can't not file, because they can not file. The issue is, will they eventually end up paying appropriate penalties and interest when the IRS becomes of record to know that? So I often say that our whole program is based on a voluntary tax compliance organization and paying, because we know that we do have auditors. We are hiring individuals right now to be part of the workforce to help us with any non-compliant individual.
There's a couple of people here that have asked this question, Mr. Morehead. So what is the most frequent mistake made by filers?
Can you repeat that for me?
Yeah, what is the most frequent mistake made by filers?
I think a lot of times the mistakes are very simple that can be corrected. It's not putting in the correct SSN of or the ITIN information correctly that causes it to not match. We also have individuals that may have just transposed numbers incorrectly as far as their income levels, which causes us to not be able to process. I often tell folks, if you're going to key the information in yourself, I mean, looking at your W-2, your 1099, any of that information, look at it twice. And for me, I have to make sure I put on my reading glasses, because sometimes 6s look like 9s, and you can transpose numbers. So we have a lot of what we call simple math errors. Sometimes the return will be accepted by the IRS with the simple math errors, because it's going to go through, and then we will catch it in our team. But I think a lot of times it's just overlooking information. When we say gather all your information, that's really important, because a lot of individuals will start filing and then they'll realize, oh, I had an account with a bank during the first few months of the year, and I had some interest, and I forgot that I had that interest in that bank. Or maybe I had a job for part of the year and they didn't send me my W-2. I forgot that I had that. So then they'll file later an amended return. And I will say that it takes longer to file an amended return and get your additional refund. So please make sure that you gather all of your documents. And then I look back in my personal is look back through, tracking, thinking about my life, and then say, okay, yeah, oh yeah, I have everything that might be there. But it is, we do forget sometimes. And so our amended return process is set up that if you file electronically, then you can file that amended return electronically in that process also.
Mr. Morehead, can you address this issue of the changes this year in the tax brackets. I've heard that there are some changes that will benefit people in a lower income. Am I correct? I think I read that somewhere.
I actually do not have that information. I'll have to have somebody follow up with you guys on
Okay.
that.
Okay. And the other question I had is, do we still have to show that we have health insurance when we file taxes? That used to be, you know, like you have your Obamacare or whatever it is. They would ask you to show your like document when you file the taxes.
I think there's still a checkbox on the return. I'd have to ask my team that's on here if they'll put it in the chat to confirm that, as far as that process.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Orhan, do you have any more questions? You had like 3 or 4.
Yeah, just a quick question. Since we are talking about the filing the tax return, so the thing is that possible to make definition of question easier? I mean, with some of the example, I mean, it's not long example, but just small math there to make the question easier. Maybe people they will feel more comfortable. They will file their tax return by themselves. So not asking for any expert or sharing their private information. So
So are you saying as far as the complexity of tax policy or the forms? So let me start with the IRS is not responsible for tax policy. That comes through Treasury Department, with, you know, what's signed into law from Congress and signed in by the president. We are responsible for trying to make our forms and our publications and our notices the easiest to interpret that law. So we are modifying and always looking for ways to make our forms, our notices, and our correspondence easier to be read, easier to be interpreted. And as I mentioned, now, you know, in multiple different languages. So we go through the forms and are looking at those constantly. The other thing I would look at is when you're actually preparing the return, you can still use, you know, the instructions that are provided through the IRS, but also many of the different softwares, including Direct File, provide a walkthrough and a question and answer. So they ask you information that you will then fill in that will populate the return in a question and answer process. So makes it very easy to follow through. And it basically asks you, you know, did you have any children? Do you have this? And the answers are pretty basic. You do have to key in some information associated from documents that you have, but I find those process of the questions and the answering software, our own Direct File and others that can really help with that.
Okay, we are almost done. We're supposed to have like a little bit of a shorter briefing today, but there's a couple of questions. Sunita, you can ask your question. You're not? Sunita, you're asking your question?
Yes. I wanted to ask, how many individuals are audited each year and what triggers an audit?
So I actually don't have the number of individuals that are audited each year. You know, hold on one second. The triggering of an audit is in many factors that go into that process, as far as the income, the amounts that are controlled on the return, as far as the volume. So I often say is I don't want taxpayers to become worried associated with being in an audit if they file a just return, meaning file everything on your return from all your documents that you have, and you shouldn't be worried about an audit, because the audit process is a fair process. That's only if you even get called to do an audit, they're going to look at the information, and you're going to have the information, and therefore you will leave with no change to any of your tax information. So I really do want taxpayers. We are a very fair organization in conducting an audit. We give taxpayers time to gather their information if you're called into a location. So I really want to state in that process. But it's really around making sure that you file and use electronic filing, because an e-filed return will help avoid mistakes that you may make that may cause something to go in the return that would cause it to have some issues. Not saying that even a mistake return with mistakes will cause it to audit, but it's just those opportunities are less in that process. But the final statement is our IRS employees that do work in our audit and examination areas are very fair and are responsible for providing good service to the customers that they're working with.
Last question. What will success look like for the IRS this season? Is it the number of filers? Has the total been going up or down?
So success for the IRS this season is how we have improved the experiences. So can I talk a little bit about the different ways that you can communicate with us? I mentioned a lot about irs.gov, and I think our website is really so well done and has so much information. So to me, one, can I gather all my information and questions in an easy format through the web access? And the answer is that success is really there. We're seeing more individuals use our website and the ability to get the information that they need. The second is for those taxpayers that want to call us. Are we providing appropriate call times? And for our main IRS numbers, the wait time to talk to an assister is 3 minutes or less. So that is excellent as far as our main 1040 line, our accounts management line. I think it's important that that's a success that we continue. We've also added a customer callback feature to many of our telephone lines, which means that if we're going to have a wait time that is above a certain wait, then we'll offer you a callback feature. Right now, we're not offering a lot of callback features because we're answering the calls so quickly, so it's not available. But the experience that any of the taxpayers have on the telephone and the quality of that shows the success that we're after. And then I also want to talk about in our face-to-face organization, the Taxpayer Assistance Centers, the tax, as the ability for the taxpayers to get an appointment, to have more times to actually see a taxpayer assistance center agent. We've offered the after hours in the weekdays on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then the Saturday services. So those are some of the successes, and that we're actually meeting several of the Secretary of the Treasury's goals for us to have the number of hours that we would offer. We will actually have more extended hours and more services offered than what was originally in the goal for the organization. So I'm just so pleased with all of our channels to how we communicate are improving, and the experience is better for each individual taxpayer.
Thank you, Mr. Morehead and team. This has been incredibly informative, very, very complete. I'm sure that everyone appreciates it. And thank you to all my colleagues who showed up today and asked questions. Sandy, you want to say bye? What happened with Sandy? Okay, maybe
I am encouraged to start the filing this weekend. So thank you. That's the best success I can offer for today's briefing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good weekend, everyone.
That's all for now. Keep watching our channels Desi TV USA and DTVNN, which have a lot of informative content, and especially our OTT platform DTV Flix, which have more than 2,000 channels.
ह्यूस्टन बार्क एनिमल शेल्टर एंड एडॉप्शन सेंटर में ह्यूस्टन के पालतू जानवरों के मालिकान बार्क के हेल्दी पेट्स हेल्दी स्ट्रीट्स प्रोग्राम के जरिए अपने पालतू जानवरों की देखभाल में मदद कर सकते हो। माइक्रोचिप और पालतू जानवरों को शहर में रजिस्टर करने के लिए सिटी ऑर्डिनेंस की तामील करने में आपकी मदद करेंगे। मजीद जानने के लिए www.houstonbark.com मुलाहिजा करें।